Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to yet another Wednesday, which means just one thing in sports communities world. It means it's doing sport differently Wednesday. I'm Steve Pallas, and I'm really pleased to be excited to be joined by, or I was joined by,
I'm here.
by Fiona Walker from the Riddles Creek Tennis Club. Welcome, Fiona.
Hi, Steve. Good to be here. Thanks for the invite.
Oh, no, thank you for sharing your story. And we're coming, the thing I love about doing sport differently Wednesday is we talk to a club about how they've engaged a different audience. And today we get to talk about teenagers. So, which would strike fear into the hearts of many parents, particularly those in Victoria lockdown doing homeschooling. But tell us a bit. Well, before you tell us a bit about the program, I guess I should not just mention that you're the president and the junior coordinator of Riddles Creek Tennis Club, but as is the case in country regions, you didn't think that 2 jobs was enough and you decided to become the president of the Macedon Rangers Tennis Association. So congratulations on that as well.
Yeah, thank you. That's just a new role that I've just taken up this week, actually. So that'll be an interesting one. So I'll get to spread my wings a little bit further and take up another job, which obviously, it's never ending. As you say, volunteers in these country areas are always spread very thinly across a number of organisations, and obviously it makes us a stronger community, but also it makes our clubs grow and obviously have support that they need. So I'm happy to take on a little bit more, especially at this time where we're not actually playing as such. But still a lot of administration stuff to be done and still a lot of preparation to be done for when we get ready to get back on court. So I'll see where that takes me.
A lot of planning. But the benefit of people going from clubland up to association level is that the knowledge that you've got, you get to then share it amongst a whole lot more broader community. And I think the learnings from your Tennis for Teens initiatives are just fantastic. So do you want to just kind of take us through 2 things? What is Tennis for Teens, and why did you need to implement it or chose to implement it at Riddles Creek Tennis Club?
Yeah, sure. So Tennis for Teens is actually a Tennis Vic initiative that was actually funded as part of one of the VicHealth grants to sort of offer different sort of levels of sport, or more inclusive formats that could be adapted and changed for clubs, and to obviously attract. The goal is to attract more people to tennis, but not so much in that traditional format of competition or coaching or that style. So, I mean, we've got facilities, we've got, great, courts and stuff that, could be used in a multitude of ways, not just for comp or coaching or social play, but for other things as well. So Tennis Vic really, sort of tapped into this and thought, and of course, the other thing that they'd been doing at the same time was this retention and, falling away of kids in sport around that age. They sort of get to that age of 14, 15, and the drop-off is quite marked. And they'd done some studies as well. I think they'd commissioned some work to be done about why teens are falling away from organised sport at that time of their life. And, there's a lot of things competing, friends or work or school, commitments have increased. So they were thinking, how do we keep hold of this cohort, or how do we get them re-engaged? So it was really a program that was like, let's just bring some fun back into their lives and let them connect on their level. So, and that's what it was all about, really. So I put my hand up because I put my hand up for most things that TV offer, because obviously when it comes with funding, you're not going to say no, right? So I was more than happy. And the other thing that sort of was driving us is we've just been very lucky to complete our new court build. So we've gone from 3 hard courts to 6. They actually completed in April. So we're also, as a club, looking at ways to how we really need to grow our numbers. Because we've got this, fantastic new courts, and we need to obviously get our membership up. So it was also a driver for me as the president and junior coordinator to say, well, look, I tap into this group of, teens, and they may want to stick around and start playing. So obviously we were interested from a club from that perspective. So the program is very much, as it says, Tennis for Teens. So they run the program, they turn up, we schedule it once a week. They have an hour and a half on the courts, or they can just hang around the clubhouse. They can sit in beanbags and play music, or have some snacks and really just muck around. And the good thing was, a lot of the kids that came had never played tennis before. They don't have lessons. There were a lot of my regulars that were really keen because they would just get on the court for any reason. And they were obviously they were coming along each week as well. And they were the kids that are, playing comp and having lessons. And they enjoyed it because they could share it with their friends a little bit more. So it was a lot more, fun for them because they could bring someone of their friends down that says, well, I don't normally play tennis, but hey, come along and have a hit and have some, have some pizza, have some drinks, hang out, and, we'll just, wherever it goes, it goes. And I actually engaged one of my top players. He's 16 and he had completed the Future Leaders program, which Tennis Vic offer. And I said, look, this is your baby. You've got to do some volunteer hours with the club to meet those requirements for that course. Why don't you run with this? You're 16. This is your cohort. You understand these kids. And he was the facilitator on court. So I really didn't, all I did was collect the money and check people in and just make sure that it was supervised. And then go back and let them do what they wanted to do. So that was sort of the framework in which we operated it.
Well, there's a whole lot of things I'd like to explore there, but one of the things, and I'll put this out and get your feedback. I'm strongly of the opinion that one of the reasons that we as sport get the drop off of those 13, 14, 15-year-olds is that sport stops being fun. It stops being relevant to the way they want to participate in sport, like the train Tuesday, train Thursday, play Saturday type competition, and that's all it is. So I think that the thing I love about the VicHealth funded programs is it really challenges or creates the opportunity for sports and then clubs to look at the world differently and say, hey, we want these kids. They want to be playing, but they just don't want to play in the way that we've been giving it to them. So let's explore that. And has that been your experience?
Yeah, I think that's the key thing for its success. I mean, MRTA have also sort of discussed this in a little, over the years as well. How do we change the format, and not just for that teenage level, but also for adults as well, right?
Yeah,
how do we take the sport and make it more flexible and make it more engaging and make it more fun and social? And because especially when you see, and when you see tennis, at the top levels, and it's competitive, and they're amazing players, and it's all very much is this for me, or and I think that's where clubs, for the future of clubs and the survival of clubs, especially coming out of COVID, we really have to think about what is the definition of our sport, what does it mean to people, and how do we re-engage with people to make it different, and not just Saturday morning you get up at 9 o'clock, you go and do 2 hours of comp, you then go to training on Wednesday night, you then do, and you move up through the ranks, and you aim for this, and a lot of kids will thrive on that. They love tennis and they just want to be on the court. That's great for them. But unfortunately, a lot of teenagers, and my kids included. I mean, my son plays tennis. He's been playing since he was 7 or 8, and that's why I got involved, obviously. But there's mornings where he's a teenager. He doesn't want to get out of bed at 9 o'clock. To be on the court at 9 o'clock. He wants to sleep in. He'll be quite happily miss a lesson. If it's windy or wet or raining. Oh, I'm not going to tennis. So I think for the survival of these grassroots clubs, it's just looking at how we can do it differently and what people are wanting out of their connection with sport as well.
Well, I think that's very important, that what they're wanting out of their connection, and whether they being, in this case, it's teenagers, don't necessarily, one of the things they don't necessarily want to do is every week do the same thing. They might want to do different things over a period of time. And I think as sports administrators, we've got to accept that's our new normal, is that, people won't want to be committing to long-term seasons. They'll just want to roll in, roll out when it suits them. And that's kind of a little bit strange and foreign for sports to be thinking about. But the other thing that you said, and you kind of just flipped over it, and I think might fill a few sports administrators with horror, was that you gave control of the program to the kids. I think.
Oh, and I think that was an important part of it, right? And then, it's like I said, they loved it. The kids just loved it. Like, I was getting the regulars back each week, and I think one night it was raining or something, and I think some of the parents texted me and said, oh no, one of the kids missed it. It was his dad was supposed to bring him down, and he forgot. And I caught up with his mum on the train the next day. I said, oh, Russell wasn't at Tennis for Teens last night, and she said, oh my God, she said the look of horror on his face when his dad realised that he'd forgot to take him down, and he said to his dad, "Oh, how could you forget? That's the highlight of my week."
Yeah.
and that was that filled me with a lot of hope, because I thought, well, this is what it's about. Like, it's not tennis in a structured way. Oh, got to perform. He just loved being down there with his friends, and he was one of the kids that just spent most of the time running around the court chasing one of the other kids with a racket. Do you know what I mean? He wasn't even really that interested in the game itself, but he was outside, he was running around, he was having fun, and it just ticked all those boxes for him. And so he was really upset when he missed that week because his dad forgot to bring him down, and I was thinking, oh, well, he was in trouble. But and that's the type of thing it is. It's just do what you want to do. If you want to just sit around, play music and chat, do that. But they're outside, they're engaged with their friends, and some of the kids may go on to have lessons. Some of them may continue to have a hit socially. So that because if they're there with their friends, they might say, "Oh, look, let's come down on Saturday and have a hit or something," and that just leads to different options for them, whether it's just an hour and a half they're doing, or whether they decide to get together, later in the week and do their own thing together. They've got the option of doing that.
One of the themes that's coming through the Doing Sport Differently program is that, or these interviews, is that for some people it takes quite a significant time to build the confidence to actually step on court even. And so you're creating this opportunity, or the kids have created this opportunity where they can come down, they can socialize, they can eat pizza, they can listen to music, they can jump on the court, they can chase balls around, and they build their confidence, they build their trust, they get comfortable in the experience. And I would suggest if COVID hadn't interrupted, you would have had more and more kids eventually going on to the tennis side of the program.
That's correct, because there are a couple of kids that I had spoken to their parents. They said that they're definitely keen to start lessons. And I'd spoken to the coach, and I work closely with our coach as well, and he knows this program's running. I'm like, keep an eye on this one, because they're really taking an interest and they're definitely keen to pursue it. So, it was really disappointing, obviously, on a number of levels that we've been interrupted with this program. But the kids will definitely come back. I mean, they've told me that as soon as we get the go-ahead to start again, most of them will be back, and I'll chase them up individually to let them know that it's happening. And then I'll try and, because we've actually got more courts now, we can extend the numbers. So I'll be going out to those kids and say, right, it's your job. I'm going to say, set a goal to say you bring 2 friends next week, or you bring someone that you don't know, or you put the word out and just get them to naturally grow it themselves and get them to be the advocates for it.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think that just before this has been one of the key learnings from my perspective through this program, being grown up in sport and an experienced sports administrator, the concept that someone may need some time to become comfortable or confident enough to actually start participation was really foreign to me. I couldn't understand that. But the more and more we explore these topics and go and talking about different audiences, engaging different audiences that haven't traditionally played that particular sport, it's a really, really common theme. So I guess the 2 questions that I've got, what was the format of the program and how did you bring people to it?
Well, the format was, like I said, it's just, meet once a week. It was actually quite structured TV. So they had an app that people would, so firstly they'd have to log in and register through their website. And register your details, because obviously TV were tracking this because they needed to report back to VicHealth on the success of the program. So it was all very much coordinated through them. So they had all the right technology and support system, and they had all the promotional stuff as well. So they supplied us with banners, with toolkit and promotional stuff for our Facebook social posts and things like that. So they gave us the underlying structure. So that was very, very good. And so we could also hook into their Instagram pages, and they had, they're also running in the parallel each week, saying, get on, because it was aimed at teens, right? So they were using social media platform that sort of worked for them. So the teens were supposed to hook into the Instagram feeds and put posts up, put pictures up of what they were doing each week and stuff like that to help them sort of, get a bit of vibe and a bit of, create a bit of, excitement about the program. And then we had the app that, I would track the participation each week. So I have to log in to say who attended, TV were very good. Then if a person didn't turn up on the day, they would then send an email to that person the next day and say, oh, we noticed you didn't turn up for Tennis for Teens. Please make sure you come along next week and stuff like that. So there was that prompting as well to say, why weren't you there? So, a bit of the old, carrot and stick, you should turn up to these things. And then obviously on the day, it was just turn up. And I often used to run it overtime. So it was scheduled to run for an hour, but I would always run it for longer because the kids just wanted to stay on the court. And so sometimes it would run for an hour and a half, hour and 3/4, and the parents would just turn up and I'd say, look, don't bother rushing back, give them an hour and a half if you want to, or come and pick them up when you're ready. So it sort of was a little bit of leeway there on how they wanted to run it on the day. And again, I was just there to make sure it was supervised and go and do the food run basically, because they were always happy about the food.
I think that's an important thing with teenagers, having 3 daughters myself.
But I think just one of the things you just said a minute ago sort of struck a chord as well. So it's interesting that you say that you've always played sport, and for you it's a bit of a no-brainer that you're going to participate and be engaged in teams and those sorts of things. But I have, as junior coordinator, I have lots of kids that do coaching, and there's some kids that just no matter how many years of coaching they've had, they will not play competition. And I can't figure it out. I'm like, why are you spending all this time, years and years of coaching? You're happy to turn up each week, you do the lesson, but as soon as I ask them to join a team, oh, no, I don't want to play. But you are playing. You're here every week and you're playing. And so it just, how do you get those kids to cross over? And that's the challenge as well, right? So yes, they like being there, whether they're just doing it because their parents dropped them off, I don't know. But it's an interesting thought. Kids will turn up and do this, lesson each week, but they don't want to play competition. There's just something there that's saying, no, that's not for me. Yeah.
Yeah, and one of the benefits that by getting the kids, getting them in that social environment, one of the opportunities that you have is that you can ask them, and then, again, this is quite a foreign concept to actually ask the kids, what do you want? And then when you hear what they want, we want music, we want pizza, we want to socialize, we don't even necessarily want to get on the tennis court. To allow them to have that freedom is really, really cool, and I think part of the strength of it. So before I ask my next question, I'd just like to welcome Kylie. Kylie, from memory, I think you're from the Officer Tennis Club, so welcome to you. Feel free to ask any of the questions. Anyone that's online at any stage, please throw your questions through, and we'll learn from Fiona's experience in the Riddles Creek Tennis Club. So how did you, on the court, what were the activities that took some of these kids that may not have even picked up a tennis racket before? What were they actually doing on the court? Like off the court, I get, whatever they want.
Yeah. They organised themselves pretty much organically. I mean, I didn't get involved. I would always if it was a new person that turned up, I'd always make sure that I introduced everyone and they knew who they were, and I made them feel comfortable, and sort of gave them some equipment and sort of got them settled in. But sort of was funny how they just sort of organised themselves into natural groups. So like I said, I had the kids that were, keen, tennis players. They were having lessons, they were playing comp. So those older kids, and they were sort of the 15, 16-year-olds, they would get together and they would just play doubles and just smash out the ball and just play like they were playing rallies and playing match play. So they were sort of sorted themselves. And then the younger ones that either hadn't played or weren't that confident, they would sort of congregate together, and they would do that in groups of either 2 or 4. Sometimes they would all, and at the end, sometimes they would all get together and they would all be on the one court. Like there was maybe 10 people on a court, and they'd all just be like mucking around, hitting the ball, trying to play points and running off and on and swapping out and stuff like that. So they would just make up the rules that they wanted to play their own way. So I wouldn't go in there and say, oh, you have to do 10 minutes of warm up and 10 minutes of serving and 10 minutes. They just decided what they want to do. So, and like I said, and usually when they came back each week, because they were friends, that were together, they would tend to hang around and do their thing, and other kids would hang together. So, but there was a lot of that, across age interaction where they would actually decide, oh, let's start playing a game. And sometimes they would introduce a game that they would do at lessons, for example, where they have that, kingmaker and stuff like that, where you've got to stay on the court till you lose points and then the next one comes around. So they would use some of those games that they'd learnt through lessons as well and introduce that to some of the kids that hadn't done that before. So, yeah, it was interesting. They just sort of ran their own show.
And your 16-year-old that you kind of appointed as the facilitator, how, first of all, when you gave him that responsibility, because often clubs don't give their juniors that sort of responsibility. So how did he react, and how did you support him when if and when he needed help and preparing him to do it and those sorts of things?
Yeah, well, he's one of our club stars. So he's actually on our committee. So because I'm junior coordinator, and I see the strength and the future of our club is always our juniors, right? There's no two, that's where they come from. So I'm very engaged with our juniors and keeping them involved. So the things that I've been doing was, one, I sent him on the Future Leaders course, because that was an opportunity where he could, go and do it's an off-site course. They run it all weekend, and they send them up to a place up Kyneton, and they learn about, leadership skills and stuff like that. And part of that was that he had to satisfy 40 hours of volunteering with the club. He was happy to do that. And so because he got and I also sent him on a coaching course. So because he was 16, he was able to do the Tennis Victoria Foundation course, or Tennis Australia Foundation course. So I'm also earmarking kids as they come through, asking what they want to do with tennis. So first thing is, are they able to, have they got the skills to do some coaching? Yes, okay, let's pay for them to go on the coaching course. And now he works with our coach, so he'll fill in and run sort of the Hot Shots programs and stuff like that, because he's now actually a Hot Shots accredited coach. And also he has a very good interest in outdoor education, and he wants to be, I think his pathway, his vocation is very much in that sports sort of outdoor education area. So he's very focused on that. So he's also a member of our committee. He's not a voting member on the committee, but he turns up to our committee meetings, and he's the voice for juniors. Wow. The other thing I'm doing with all my juniors is, as they age out before they age out from junior comp, I've been placing them in our Thursday night adult comp teams. So all my juniors are now playing adult competition on Thursday night, so that they know there's pathways for them. So before they get to 18 and say, oh, well, I'm done, I get them well before that. So like, he's 16, he's been playing with our Thursday night teams for over a year or more. So all my 16, 17-year-olds are all in Thursday night adult competition. So as soon as they finish at junior level, they know that there's a team for them to go to, and that they're going to continue with their tennis with our club.
Because that's a very big, another area where sport loses its participants, isn't it? That transition from junior to senior. So if you can cross that over, that makes that, again, because a lot of it's unknown, scared of the unknown, unsure about what it is. So making it that transition really is really effective strategy. It's amazing that you go so far as to introduce them onto the committee and give them that experience. I mean, that's the ultimate in succession planning, isn't it? You're creating.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not planning on doing this forever.
Yeah.
I can tell you that. So my aim is to, make sure there's a good succession plan. And I've got another 18-year-old that's actually, he's just turned 18 this week, and he's joining the committee on our AGM. So AGM's coming up next month, but I've earmarked him and said, you're joining the committee. He said, yeah, absolutely fine. So I'll have one 18-year-old and one 16-year-old on the committee. But like I said, they haven't, under our bylaws, they haven't got the right to vote, but they've certainly got a voice on the committee, and they're representing the juniors, and I'm happy for them to be there to do that. So yeah, I think it's important that they, and also, I mean, it's because it's not just continuing the kids to play tennis, but it's also continuing them to be engaged in the club. And part of that is doing the right thing for volunteering, right? And just stepping up and taking up these committee roles. So, you can't have your committee full of 65-year-old, people that have been sitting on that committee for a very long time and have got no fresh ideas. We need to be having that representation at any level, whether it's sports, committees, government. You need that diversity on your committee. Otherwise, you just not, it also shows that the club is looking at everyone that's engaged in the club. There's something there for them, not just, committees making decisions that doesn't impact them, or they don't understand what their needs are.
Yeah, and I think that's important, is what their needs and what they're looking for and what they're wanting to experience. So just on the coming, what are some of the things that you've learned, or some of the challenges that you experienced as you were implementing the program, apart from COVID?
Apart from COVID, well, like I said, because it was very easy to implement because TV did all the work. So that was one thing. I did make some notes about recommendations. One thing that we decided to do was keep it affordable, right? Because the last thing we wanted to do was to make, put the cost of it as a barrier for people coming along. So we've kept it at $5, which I think, and that basically just covers the food. So it just covers them to have the pizza. And what we did, and with the money that the money we left over, had left over at the end of the term, I bought them all tickets for the Australian Open concert, the Jessica Malvoy opening concert, and I took them all down that day to the tennis. Obviously, there was no play. It was the opening night. Yeah. And they loved it. So I said, look, let's go along to this concert and have some fun. So we went along as a group. So I took the money from that we had, any money that we had left over from the term, I used it I said, what do you want to do with it? They said, I can get you tickets for this concert. Do you want to go? So we went to Melbourne and we had a fun night. So so again, it was keep it affordable, because we don't want to discourage people from not coming because it's it's expensive, or it's out of their reach. And what I was thinking post-COVID, what we're trying to do, a lot of what we've been doing as a club is just keeping things really inexpensive. So I think what I'll do when I kick it off again, I just won't even bother charging. I know TV sort of say, look, you should be charging because it's your time, and the club should be getting some of the expenses back. But I just think, look, I'm just going to run it for free in term whenever we come back, maybe term 1 next year. And so just to really push it off and have another big push to get it kick-started again, and say, come down, it's free. We'll provide some snacks and stuff, because it's not hugely expensive to do that. And then once we get that interest back and that build the numbers back up, then I'll start introducing the $5. And I think that's more than reasonable. I think parents would be fine with that.
Oh, I think parents would be very fine with that. And I also love
it's basically babysitting. It's babysitting for an hour and a half, right?
Oh, yeah. But I also think it's the perfect strategy is to get the kids to take ownership for it and go on to recruit. They're going to be your biggest and strongest ambassadors in their network. So you might as well take advantage of that. And if they don't love it enough to come, well, if they're coming, they'll absolutely love it enough to share and bring their friends, and there's no reason not to, because they don't even have to come on the court. You can introduce them to the club that way. So I think that's just been an amazing, really, really open-minded execution, if you like, of a program. So congratulations. Before we go, have you got any more tips for clubs that might be going down this path and wanting to bring the teens to their club where they may or may not have them?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, TV are open to, obviously, if anyone wants to run it, they have to get in touch with Tam, who runs the program, and that she'll provide all the support they need, and give them the social media tiles and things that it's all in the toolkit that they can kick it off. I mean, there's no barrier that I can see, as long as you can schedule the time somewhere in your calendar in the week. I mean, obviously you need to have someone down there to supervise. I'm happy to do that, because I haven't got much going on at the moment anyway, but so I think, but like I said, if they can find that facilitator that is in that teenage, that age where they want to take something on at the club, they want to be given some responsibility, I think that's the perfect way to do it. Like I said, the cost thing was, make it affordable. Don't make it out of the reach for some people. And I also generally just think clubs need to be thinking outside the square, and thinking, we've got these facilities that maybe not used, 2 or 3 nights a week, or a couple of hours a week, where they can just say, look, let's just open up our courts for something like this, because you never really know where it's going to go and how many members you may pick up, and how successful it may be.
Yeah, and when we compare it to, and as you were talking, it reminded me a lot of barefoot bowl. So when we compare it to traditional sport, it's almost the complete opposite to the way traditional sport and the traditional pathways. And as you said earlier, it's not about replacing those, it's about complementing those and potentially creating the pathway into those more traditional competitive formats of the sport. And I guess that's where you're heading, and hoping that we'll transition from the tennis for
and
team.
even if it doesn't, my goal, and whether it's competition, kids doing competition sport, or whether it's going down and having a hit, my goal is to have those courts being used at capacity, at 100% of the time. So they're a community asset. They should not be sitting there vacant, as far as I'm concerned. We've got book a court. We've got book a court system as well. So our courts, when we're not locked up, are available to the whole community to book. And so we just want to have those courts being utilised, because otherwise it's an underutilised asset and it shouldn't be sitting there dormant as far as I'm concerned. So that's why we try and keep things, as cheap as possible for people to get on the courts and use them. So whether it's teenagers having a hit with their mates, or whether it's social tennis, or people from the community just booking the court and turning up and having a hit, that's really what we're aiming to do, because it's going to grow the strength of our club and it's going to grow our community, and that's what we're trying to do at the end of the day.
Oh, that's fantastic. So I'll just say welcome to you, Jackie. We're just about to sign off, but thank you for coming into another session. Fiona, it's as I bring up the VicHealth framework to finish off like we normally do. Fiona, I'd just like to thank you for sharing that experience. It's really wonderful listening to clubs implementing these new programs, and I always find it really interesting through these themes that when we ask the question about challenges, kind of when you create a program for a particular audience, it doesn't seem to be that many challenges because they want that activity.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's just making sure that you've got the right target and the right market.
Well, absolutely.
And just removing some of those barriers. Yeah.
Well, and that's really some of the principles of the Doing Sport Differently created by VicHealth and La Trobe Uni, and so if we kind of just fly through the principles and how you've applied them, engaging the target market. Well, you've not only engaged them, but they're facilitating it. Again, clubs are really surprised or often don't realise the number of different programs that their peak body do offer. So peak bodies are now offering lots of these introductory social programs that clubs can just pick up and use and get a lot of support. And in your case, Tamitha Harding and who's a gun, and Tennis Victoria we seem to be a really great partner for you in this process, Fiona.
Yeah, and just talking about those programs, you are aware of open court sessions as well, aren't you, that TV are also running?
Let's assume that I'm not. That's a good assumption.
Well, it was plugged to death over the Australian Open last year.
Yeah.
So that was another one of these, different type doing sport differently initiatives where open court sessions, and that was hugely successful as well for our club. But unfortunately, we got hit over the head with the COVID bug there as well. So we're bringing that back as well. So open court sessions is sort of similar to the framework for tennis for teens, only it's for adults, or not even. Like we've got teenagers that are coming from Tennis for Teens also doing open court sessions. So again, it's just social play. It's a bit more structured in the way that the program runs. It has sort of activities that you do on court and you rotate around, which is a lot of fun. But so we're actually expanding that. So that was really successful, and we've had people, knocking on our door saying, when's it coming back? And so when we bring that back, we're going to adapt that a little bit. So we're going to again have a dedicated night for that in the club, and so people again register, same thing, they register through the link on Tennis Victoria because we run the program, and so our club comes up as one of the facilitators of that program. So it's very easy to register. And then, they'll come down, and instead of just doing the open court sessions format, we're also going to run Fast 4 Tennis, which is also another TV style of tennis for social play. That's just when you're talking about doing sport differently. I can't really talk about Tennis for Teens without talking about open court sessions as well, because that's been very successful for our club too.
Yeah, fantastic. And I think just flying through the principles, catering for different levels, giving them the opportunity to come, feel comfortable, and then take them on that journey. As you've said, the deliverer is really important. But one point that you flicked over that I think is really, really important, the deliverer is vital, but also that person to welcome people. And when they come into the facility for the first time, that's actually quite daunting. So to grab them straight away, welcome them, and then to immerse them into whatever's going on is a big step that again, you've done really, really well and successfully.
Well, open court sessions, that's one of the principles of that, and that's what TV have looked at. So with open court sessions, like I said, it's a bit more structured, and you have your on-court facilitator and your off-court facilitator. So your off-court facilitator is get the people as they come in, welcome them, explain the program to them if they haven't done it before, put them into their groups and stuff like that. So again, that's very much making it very welcoming, and people that have never picked up a racket feel comfortable. And there's different levels of activities whether it's pickleball or 3 on a court or half court tennis, and we use different styles of balls, so it's been adapted. So you can use the low compression balls, so it's very easy for most people to hit the ball back. So, and if they don't, it's a laugh and a giggle. It's a hit and a giggle. So and again, it's and that's like I said. So running these social programs really can and it will result in members for the club, because the way we're going to run it next, when we get it kicked off again, we're offering half price membership subscriptions this year because of COVID. So we're going to say, look, you can pay your $10 for the a session for open court sessions, or if you just become a member, it's actually cheaper for you to do that. So again, we'll be pushing that. So in one way, we'll get our memberships up, and people who then join as a member and do these sessions will then think, okay, I'm a member now. I can come and book the court whenever I want for free. And I can go down and play with my friends that I've just met at open court sessions, and let's get together on Saturday afternoon and have a hit. So it just builds those pathways and those relationships to offer tennis on a different level for those who have not traditionally played or are coming back to the sport or just want to come down and meet some people.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic. I love the fact that this is the process working beautifully, isn't it? VicHealth create the funding, that the peak bodies create the programs, that the club implement, that create stronger communities. So, Fiona, thank you so much for sharing the journey so far with Riddles Creek Tennis Club, and best of luck as president of the Macedon Rangers Tennis Association.
Yeah, I think I've got a bit of work cut out there, but I think our club's in pretty good shape at the moment. But I think, there's a bit of work to be done there. But and thanks for having me on the program, and I'm happy to share our experiences, because I think this is important for all clubs to get this feedback. And if you're listening, I would say put your hand up for this stuff, because it's really been a key success for key success for our club leading up to COVID. And like I said, once we get back on the courts, we're definitely going to be embracing these programs full on, and it's part of our strategy. We've got dedicated people on the committee that run these programs to make sure that they're viable and they keep running. That's my goal anyway, to make sure that these things stay with the club. So thanks for your time, Steve.
No, fantastic, Fiona. So, and to everyone that's watched, and everyone who will watch the recording post this session, I thank you very much, and I thank you for being part of our sports community. And I've lost my cursor, so we'll just say goodbye. Thank you very much, Fiona.
Thank you.